Fantastic. Thanks a lot for making the time, Terry. I've been really looking forward to having a chat with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tom.
Um, I keep running into people that know you, but for the people that don't know of your background, could you spend a little bit of time talking about what your life in Australia was like before you fired and moved overseas?
Well, I don't know if I'm fired or not
Yeah.
because I'm still working, but I guess I could stop working any time.
How
So,
many hours a week are you working now?
oh, 40 maybe.
What? Really? That's more than I expected.
It goes on and off. Like I have a couple of weeks off, and then I go hard, and then I go off again.
Yeah.
But yeah, really busy at work and lots of inquiries coming in.
Yeah.
So I have to knock back most people.
Good problem to have.
But yeah, I'm a lawyer. I specialize in structuring, and that's the way you set up ownership and the funding for investing in main residences, etc.
Hmm. And so you're still doing that. So technically, you're not fired. You're a digital nomad then.
Well, I guess so. Yeah,
Okay, awesome. How long have you been doing that now?
20 years,
20 years? Okay.
maybe 30. Yeah, because I'm in my 50s now,
Wow. Okay.
and I first went to Thailand when I was 20.
So throughout all of your 20s and 30s and 40s, you were living abroad and doing this type of work?
I was living in Sydney most of it.
Okay.
Spent a year in Japan, but traveling back and forth.
Gotcha.
And I become a broker around 2001, I think.
Okay.
So I'm a mortgage broker and a lawyer.
And so over time, was it you were spending lots of time in Australia and less time overseas? And over time, it kind of shifted and pivoted, and now you're spending more time overseas?
Um, yeah, I think 2 years ago I went over to Thailand and bought a house
Oh, wow. Okay. Big step.
um, through an associated entity.
Hmm.
And I just come back a couple of months ago with the intention of buying a house in Sydney.
Okay. I do want to touch on that because one of the things that we want to look at further down the line is how do we purchase kind of like a retirement place in a different country? And I've heard that it can be challenging in Thailand buying it directly in your name. So there might be other ways to own property in Thailand.
Well, I think now it's probably best not to have bought.
Oh, really? Okay. Tell me
It's
more.
a good investment, but once you buy, you're locked into one space, one place.
Yes.
And my place is really good, but it's a bit isolated.
Hmm.
So I can't just go for a walk. It's not an area with walking ability.
It sounds like
Yeah,
you're in the regional countryside or something.
no, I'm in Pattaya,
Oh, okay.
but it's 5 kilometers to the beach,
Okay.
and there's no footpaths. There's dogs, so you basically got to drive or ride your motorbike everywhere.
Mm,
Whereas if I was in the town, you could actually just go out and go for a walk.
okay. That would have been a big decision 2 years ago to decide to buy something and to establish some real roots in Thailand. Tell me about that thought process and how you decided to actually go through and purchase something.
Well, property there is extremely cheap.
Hmm.
So I think my house costs 5 million baht,
Hmm.
which is about 125,000.
Can't find anything in Australia for that.
And it's brand new, 3 bathrooms, 4 bedrooms,
Yeah.
2 story. I think the block is about 400 square meters.
Okay.
So no grass to mow. And it's in a gated community, so it's got security as well. But well, me and my wife did it because just want to have a base and you don't want to keep on having to move.
Mm.
which you can still do when you rent,
Hmm.
but it's sort of different. And the repayments on the loan are less than we would have paid renting
For rent.
anyway.
That's fascinating. So you went down the mortgage route.
Well, we withdrew from an offset account on a investment property
Okay.
in Australia, so you can. Well, the increased interest is deductible to
Okay.
us, and the interest is less than the rent.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, before you settled down on Thailand as a place to settle roots, had you traveled across Southeast Asia and other parts of the world to kind of explore different geo arbitrage countries?
The first place I went to when I was about 20 was I flew to Singapore, and then I got a train from Singapore to Penang, to Butterworth, and then to Thailand.
Hmm.
So, and from there I went to Japan, and I lived in Japan for a year, and then I've been to Myanmar and
Myanmar.
Laos as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, Myanmar was about before my daughter was born, so it was about 28 years ago
Wow. Okay.
when it was different.
Is it much
Still
more
under
developed now?
military. Yeah, yeah. I recall back then, no one wore shoes. It was all thongs and sandals,
Yeah.
and no one even wore pants. I mean, they weren't running around naked, but they had sarongs on,
Yeah.
and I even got one myself. And
It went full
but
blown local.
I kept my undies on underneath, but they
Just in case.
don't. They don't. Yeah, yeah,
Just
because
in
it
case.
was always falling down.
So you traveled to a fair bunch of places. What was it about Thailand that made you fall in love and want to settle down roots?
Well, I don't know. The language was always difficult. I found Japanese easier,
Okay.
but it just had something about it. It's totally different to Japan.
Yes.
Japan's really organized and
Organized. Modern.
quiet, but
Mm.
Bangkok's a madhouse.
Yes.
I'm not sure what attracted to me to there initially,
Hmm.
but I ended up going there a lot.
Okay.
And it's like
And
a hub. Wherever you go in Asia, you can go to Bangkok and fly from there.
mhm.
So it's a good place to be if you want to travel.
And I'm assuming you like the food and the people.
Yeah. Although I can't eat spicy.
You picked the wrong country.
And I learned to when the Thais say it's only a little bit spicy.
Ah, I made that
I
mistake.
yeah, I don't believe it.
Ah, one of the best bowls of noodles that the family ever had was actually at this tiny little noodle shop at the airport. And they just said, I asked for just a little bit of spice, and we all paid for it. I think my son was at the airport bathroom for like half an hour before
Uh,
we got our plane. But the kids found it so spicy, but they couldn't stop eating it because it was so good. So just they just kept eating it, and they would just take moments in between mouthfuls to go, oh,
it's probably the sugar that makes it so delicious.
yeah,
They put sugar in everything.
yeah.
But I recall now I got really sick in Myanmar in Shan State. We had Shan noodles,
Hmm.
and then driving down the mountains, the windy road, I just started spewing. It was
Oh,
terrible. And I couldn't eat noodles for the next 10 years.
wow. So I'm speaking to you now whilst you're in Australia. How often do you come back to Oz?
I just came back because I wanted to move into our former main residence again,
Hmm.
reset the 6-year rule.
Gotcha.
and I want to buy another property to live in. So as soon as I do that, I'm going back to Thailand.
Gotcha.
Even even though I'm going to live in this new property, the plan is to go back and forth.
Hmm.
So maybe half of the year there and half of the year here in Australia.
That's a good plan.
So I need something small with a little bit of grass or maybe no grass.
No grass. Yeah. We've done something similar. So we thought about where do we want to retire to? And like you, I don't want to mow a lawn. And so we got an apartment in Parramatta and we rented it out for now. And eventually that's where we'll retire to. And we'll use that as a base as we ping pong to different parts of the world. So you're going to stay in your current house to reset the 6-year rule. You're going to buy the place where you want to retire to. Are you going to rent it out in the short term or will you move into that straight
No,
away?
we'll just move in straight away.
Okay, gotcha. And then,
So I'll buy and sign the contract and immediately go back to Thailand
yep.
because I've got to renew the reg on my car
Hmm.
and license.
And will you rent
And
out your current house?
yeah, yeah,
You will. Okay, gotcha. So you rent out your current house. It's still under the 6-year rule, and you'll keep your other property as residence,
yeah,
but not a
yeah.
principal place of residence.
Oh no, it will be so. We'll have the option later as
Down the
to
track.
which property to claim the exemption on.
Yep. Okay, awesome. Now, you mentioned something really interesting a second ago, and that is, in hindsight, you might not have purchased in Pattaya. Is that just the location, or is it just owning something and having a permanent base in a foreign country?
No, it's good. Owning something's good
Okay.
because it's increasing in value.
Hmm.
But it's the location. I'm not. It's not really bad, but it's not ideal.
It's not ideal. Got it. Yeah, I know what you mean. Whenever my wife and I go overseas somewhere, we try and find something within walking distance. So, live like a New Yorker, 10,000 steps a day, everything that you need within walking distance. Being, what did you say, 5K out or 5 minutes out?
That's about 5K.
5K. Okay.
Have you been to Pattaya?
No, not yet. On the bucket
Okay.
list.
It's just as you get off the expressway, the tollway,
Hmm.
and then um, there's a toll booth. It's just near there.
Okay.
So
And you
when I
said
go into town, I do get on the tollway, but after you have to pay, so the end bit of it.
okay. Do you have a car
And
or a scooter?
uh, both,
Yeah, both. Okay.
both. I'm scared of riding the motorbike because it's the way they ride there is really dangerous,
Yes.
but it's good for going up the shop
Yes.
a couple of kilometers. But I wouldn't want to ride it into town because you've got to
Yes.
cross a 3-lane highway.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy. It's like playing Frogger.
Even when you're driving, it's the motorbikes are dangerous because they zip in and out behind you, and when you're turning, there'll be one on the right, one on the left,
Yep.
turning with you at the same time or cutting you off.
Yep. So when you're riding around,
So
you're like this.
yeah, yeah, and because I wear glasses, it's hard
Mm,
to see when they're sort of going up and down on the helmet.
mm.
I rarely ride, but my wife, she rides. She often rides with the neighbour on the back, doubling up to the markets.
And your wife, is she Australian or Thai?
She's an Australian citizen, but born in Thai.
Okay, gotcha. So there's less of a culture shock for her in terms of
Yeah,
acclimatizing to the norms.
yeah, she can speak Thai, and she helps me a lot with the language
Oh, good.
because I can speak basic Thai, but
Hmm.
it's really hard to navigate things like getting your license done.
Oh, I imagine.
Even for her, it's hard
Yeah.
because it's a madhouse. You got to spend like a whole day. to do something.
And is it because it's inefficient or just bureaucratic?
Bureaucratic, I think.
Hmm.
And they want copies of everything. You go and get the copy made and you come back and they say, well, we needed a copy of this as well. Then you have to go back and they don't do copies. You got to go to the shop across the road.
Ah, yeah. I think some
But
of the things we take for granted in Australia, how relatively efficient things are.
yeah, yeah. I did use an agent to do my motorbike license.
Yeah.
But even that, you got to go with them to the Department of Motor Transport.
Hmm.
They tell you where to go, but you still got to line up. So it's a whole day wasted.
What sort of visa did you get for Thailand?
I got a marriage visa
Okay.
and a retirement visa because I've been there, like they're 1 year visas. So
Yep.
I chopped and changed. But that's expired now. So when I go back, I'm just going to get a tourist visa,
Hmm.
and you get well, you get 60 days now, but you can
Yep.
extend it another month.
Okay.
But I'll be back in Australia before 90 days. So that's all I need.
Gotcha. So the retirement visa only lasts a year and you have to constantly renew it. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's another day or two at immigration.
Wow. I have heard that the people who have a fair amount of money, they opt for the Thai elite visa and they'll give you 5, 10,
Oh,
20
yeah.
years. A bit pricey,
That
but
that is like 30 grand Aussie.
yeah. Do you think that's worthwhile? Or is it too easy?
No, it's a bit high.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
You can just constantly renew your retirement visa,
Hmm.
and you only need um, I think it's 800,000 baht in the bank
Okay.
for 3 months, and that is about 30 grand or something. But it's your money. You just have to show you've got it.
Hmm. And are there any other tax benefits in living in Thailand, like having a bank account offshore, or do you have to declare everything in Australia anyway?
In Australia, they want you to declare it if you've got more than 50 grand
Okay.
overseas, which I never have more than 50. And the tax laws in Thailand have changed, I think, January 1.
Hmm.
So now if you're in the country more than 6 months, or it might be 180 days, you're a tax resident of Thailand. So you've got to
Hmm.
lodge a tax return.
Oh.
And I think next year it's getting stricter. So if you're a Thai tax resident, they're going to tax you on your worldwide income like Australia does.
How's that
But
work?
there's a double tax agreement. So you wouldn't be taxed twice,
Uh-huh.
but it's just a hassle doing an extra tax return.
Yep.
So I'm counting the days, and I think I'll try and avoid being there more than 6 months,
Okay.
just to avoid having to do a Thai tax return.
That's a good tip. I think we're going to dodge that just by spending time in multiple countries across the year. A little bit of time in Vietnam, a little bit of time in Thailand, a little bit of time in the Philippines. Um,
Yep.
yeah. So in hindsight, I know that there's a sunk cost in buying a home in Pattaya, but would you have done the same again, or would you just gone for like a condo somewhere else?
I probably would have bought a condo, but there's no real ideal place. I think Pratumnak is good near next town away from Pattaya
Hmm.
because it's on a hill. There's less tourists,
Yep.
um, but even that's not ideal because the traffic getting in and out is terrible. So maybe renting would have been better,
Yep.
and just use the money you would have used to buy the house to invest, and that will pay your rent.
Yeah.
And then if you don't like it, you can move.
Yeah, you have a little bit more flexibility. Mm.
Yeah, but the house is good because we've got a garden, which you can't have in a condo.
Hmm.
Um, there's a gym in our complex, but there's no pool.
Ah, okay. You kind of need that.
It would be good, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about putting a lap pool in my house, like a skinny one up the side,
Hmm.
above ground. I could do that
Yeah, that'd be a great idea. I
because
can't imagine
it's always
living.
hot there.
I couldn't imagine living in Southeast Asia without a pool. Like Malaysia or Philippines, Vietnam, all of them. It's pretty hot. Japan's probably exception. It's not really Southeast Asia, but yes, a pool would be welcome. Um, so you've done this for a while, for the last 30 or so years. Would you have any tips for someone that's thinking about this type of lifestyle?
Just do it. Don't wait.
Just do it. Yeah.
I had a friend die last week, 54 years of age. He's also married to a Thai and lives just down the road.
Hmm.
He just dropped dead on a bushwalk all of a
54.
sudden.
That's so young.
Hmm.
That is
So
so
just
young.
do it. You don't know when you're gonna not be able to do it,
Mm.
and as you get older, it's harder physically to move about. So do it while you're young,
Yeah.
and work when you're old if you have to.
Work when you're old if you have to. Okay. So
And
continue
I
to work.
think, yeah, I
Yeah.
think you don't. It's like everyone's sprinting, trying to finish the race as soon as possible, and then they're gonna retire.
Yeah.
But instead of doing that, it's best to walk and have mini holidays along the way, but continue working. And that way you get a bit of money and a bit of retirement at the same time.
Mm.
But it's not always possible with people in paid employment. It's hard to get time off.
Mm. It depends on the role. But that's a really good spin on the whole notion of fire. Like as you say, everyone's trying to sprint to the finish line. I was really disappointed with myself because I was hoping to be fired by 40, but kids came along and they had a decade to everything. So 50 is going to be the year we fire next year, and I think you're right. I'm looking forward to it, and like we're not getting any younger. That's the tough bit.
Mm, yeah. Even I can still walk long distances, but I just get more tired.
Mm.
Where did we go? I think we went somewhere. In Japan
Hmm.
recently. I went to Mount Koya with my
Great.
daughter, and I just had to say I can't walk another step. There was still so much we hadn't seen, but I
Mm.
gave up.
Yep.
I'm so
Yeah.
tired.
It creeps up on you. But your
Sure
mate at
does.
54 is just way, way young. Uh, yeah, it was my brother that kind of reminded me that my mum retired at 60, thinking she had like a good couple of years ahead of her, and she passed away at 61. So we have all of these thoughts and dreams, but like,
I see it so often in clients as well.
hmm.
Yeah, they've done everything perfectly for retirement. They retire.
Hmm.
A few months or years later, they're dead. They miss out.
A real shame.
So yeah, my advice is to just do it. Start traveling. Rent something. If
Hmm.
if you don't like it, you can just leave. Pay 6 months rent. Doesn't matter if you lose it because rent in Thailand is very, very cheap. It'd
On
be
that point,
like $500 upwards per month.
per month. Okay, that is cheap. That is really cheap. A three-bedroom apartment in Parramatta is like a grand. It's a
A
week.
week. Yeah. I think something equivalent in Thailand would be like a quarter of the price in Sydney,
Wow.
or less.
Okay.
But
Um,
everything else is pretty much the same price as Sydney, like cars, petrol, meals, maybe half price.
mhm.
Um,
So what would dinner out like? You're taking your missus out for a date night at a nice place. What would that set you back?
it can be expensive. We like to go to the Hilton buffet,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
as you can see. Um, and that's like probably 1,200 baht,
Hmm.
maybe $50 each
Yep.
without drinks.
Okay.
But that's on the high end. But
That yeah. That would be
there's
100 in Australia.
or more probably.
Mm.
There's another place we go to, which is a beef buffet, Korean Japanese style, where you cook it yourself,
Yep.
and that is about 700 baht, so 30 $30 or so.
Okay. Gotcha. So that would be about 50, $60 here in Australia. So at the
But
top
that's
end, it sounds
Aussie
like
beef.
half.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then you can go to the like around the house, pork dish like pork neck and rice.
Hmm.
It's really, really nice. That's probably like $2.
So there's a very big range.
Yeah,
I love street food. I've never gotten sick with street food in Thailand and Vietnam because like they cook it in front of you. It's made fresh. I'm a bit more sketchy whenever I go to visit India. I go to India probably once a year for work, and I try to stay away from the street food there. But I've never had a problem with Thailand.
that's what scares me about India, the getting sick from the food.
Mm, yeah,
And the toilets scare me too.
the toilets.
I've never seen one, but I can't imagine
I'll send you a
an
photo.
emergency. Having to go to a public toilet in an emergency.
Yeah, not pretty. What are they like in Thailand?
Oh, better than here.
Okay.
Yeah. We just drove to Victoria and back, and hardly any toilets, and the ones you get, like the
Yeah.
you, you wouldn't want to sit down on one.
Yeah.
But in Thailand, there's petrol stations everywhere with beautiful, clean toilets.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, better than Sydney.
Yeah, nice.
Some
Um,
people think it's like third world over there. Some parts are, but a lot of it's better than Sydney.
that
Like the
is the misconception.
trains, shopping centres. Yeah,
Yeah, the shopping center blows my mind. Like I walk in there and you get like I'm not a huge shopper. My wife and I converted to minimalism a couple of years ago, so we're trying to downsize in terms of stuff. Walk away from brands. Most of what I wear now is Uniqlo. But whenever we go to Asia, the shopping center just is mind-blowingly huge. It's almost like an experience.
yep. When when I want to go for a walk in Thailand and it's hot, what I do is I drive to the Hilton Hotel shopping centre.
Yeah.
There's always parking.
Yes.
It's next to the beach,
Yes.
and you can just walk around, do a few laps in
Yep.
the air conditioned comfort.
Yes. Yes. Stop by somewhere for a coffee, then go back to the car and drive home.
It's not like Sydney where you can't find parking,
Yes, that is
and
hard.
you can still park on the beach in Thailand. Maybe not in Pattaya itself, but
Mm,
or sometimes you can. But just down a few beaches, there's plenty of parking.
okay.
So another thing I do is I drive down there at dusk and walk along the beach
Hmm.
and get a meal and then go home.
Sounds like a good life, man.
Yep, it is.
It's like, is there anything else you got to tick off your bucket list, or you're basically living the dream? Because when I speak to Andy, he basically says you need to talk to Terry because that guy's living the dream. What's left for you?
Well, I haven't traveled that much. Like I want to go to Egypt,
Oh, you'd love
India.
it. Yeah, Egypt's amazing.
Yeah, I've got to do travel more in the
Hmm.
next next few years while I still can.
Yeah. Well, you still have your mobility, still can walk
Yeah,
around.
yeah. And my
How
wife
old?
wants to go to Italy.
Yep.
I'm 57, I think. Yeah.
50s. And do you see yourself dialing back down from your 40 hours a week, or are you happy to keep doing that because you enjoy the work that you do?
Um, yeah, I read tax stuff for pleasure.
Yeah.
So it's like a hobby
Yeah.
to me. Yeah.
And so the 40 hours, is it mainly client work, or is it also things like, writing your book and doing podcasts and kind of like more leisurely work stuff?
Yeah, a fair bit of it is meeting clients,
Yeah.
but only via video usually, which you can do anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest is writing and research. And yeah, I've just tried writing a book.
Yep.
Well, I've written it, but just piecing it all together, that's the hard part, the
Mm,
editing. So I've got a couple of editors. Michael's helping me,
yep.
but it's just amazing the amount of work involved in editing it. So rather than do that myself, I'd rather write a second book
Yep.
and get someone else to fix up the problems in the first,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and just keep writing books and posts. I post on the property chat forum,
Yep.
and I've written more than 600 tax tips and probably 400 legal tips relating to investing.
Hmm.
So I could put all them in the book as well, but that would take time editing and
Hmm.
rewriting. So I think rather than do that, I'll just keep writing new ones because there's still so much I haven't written on.
Mm. How long has that journey been writing this book?
Well, I did it on the Facebook group. I just said one day I'm going to post a tip a day about retirement, and every day I would write one. I think I missed one day, but
Hmm.
I did it for like 105 days straight. So it only took a couple of months, but editing it has taken 2 years.
Is there a light at the end of the tunnel for you? Like, when can we see the
Yeah,
book?
it's the second edit's been done. So I think a couple of months more it'll be out there.
Awesome. Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
I've got to think of a
Across.
title though. That's
Sorry, got to
another
think of the
hard part.
title.
Yeah.
Oh, I failed at marketing. The one thing I'm terrible at. Um, of all the clients that you've spoken to, is there a common number of pitfalls that you've seen in terms of the way that they've structured their circumstances?
Um, a lot of people muck up their loans because they put money in and pull money out,
Mm.
not realizing that contaminates the loan. And that's probably the biggest thing I see.
Mm-hmm.
The other is a lot of people pay more capital gains tax than they should
Mm-hmm.
because they don't know, and their accountant doesn't know how to work it out properly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, ownership structure, there's no ideal one solution, so it depends on the people. But owning shares jointly is a mistake, I think.
Okay. Yep.
It's better to own, say, 50 in the husband, 50 in the wife's name,
Mm-hmm.
rather than 100 jointly.
Why is that?
Um, it's more flexible, but it gives you the same. You can still treat them as jointly owned, but if one of you wants to retire earlier,
Gotcha. You can control the
the
sell down.
yeah, And
Right.
when you borrow to buy the shares, you can offset one instead of both.
Hmm.
And I've written a tip on it somewhere. There's about seven reasons. I can't always remember my tips, so I have to go back and read them.
I'm similar. I'm like you. So in the same way that you read like tax legislation for fun, I love global macroeconomics. So I'll do the same and I'll post stuff, and it's hard to remember all the things that you've posted. Um, I'm really jealous of the lifestyle that you had, and I'm looking forward to doing it myself. Other than just do it, do you have any other tips for me that's on the cusp of stepping away from corporate, walking away from like a 9 to 5, and about to embark on this journey of fire?
Well, um, have you settled on a country you want to live in, or are you going to
No,
be on the move?
I think for the first couple of years we're going to be on the move, and so we're planning to pick like a continent per year. So the first year that we fire will be Asia, and we'll do Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines, Korea and Japan and go visit that. And the year after that, we'll do Eastern Europe, and perhaps the year after that, we'll do South America. So ultimately, after about 4 or 5 years, we would have gone, that was our favorite place. Let's go back there and we'll do a deeper reconnaissance. But right now, I think we'll just rent until we find a place that we fall in love
You could just rent a place in, say, Bangkok,
with. Yep,
and use it as the base, and just spend 3 months there, wait for the visa to expire,
yep,
and then you go to Manila,
yep.
um, and then come back to Bangkok for a bit. You can leave all your stuff there,
Okay, gotcha.
or the stuff you don't want to carry.
Yep. So carry the cost of the rent, but then just have a more of a permanent base.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's an option I hadn't considered.
But you need some things like TVs and maybe a laptop. You might want a separate screen.
Yep. I wish I could show you my setup. So I've got a laptop that is a dual screen. So if you could imagine a laptop with a top and bottom, the top is a screen, the bottom's usually a keyboard. There is no keyboard, it's actually a screen.
Oh yeah,
And then you just pair a Bluetooth keyboard next to it. And so wherever I go, I've got two screens with me.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I find I need a bigger screen, like a 24-inch as
yeah,
well.
yeah. Especially with the work that you do. There's a fair amount of spreadsheet work.
Yeah, and my eyes are getting a bit bad as well.
Yep,
Um, so my plan is just to have, like, I've got a desktop in Thailand, desktop in Sydney.
yep.
So, and I'm going to leave clothes there, clothes here.
Yep.
So when I
Ah,
go, I'll
gotcha.
just I'll
Just
just
travel
take my
light.
phone.
Yep. That's
Uh,
interesting.
in reality, I'll need a suitcase carrying back food that I can't get there. And when I come back, vice versa.
Does quarantine always slow you down because of the stuff you bring back?
Oh, they don't care in going into Thailand, but on the way back,
Yeah.
food can be an issue.
Yep.
But as long as it's in a packet, they
Packaged.
don't mind. Even
Yeah, if it's
seeds.
packaged.
We brought back a lot of seeds and declared them, and they typed in the name of each, the genus and species name, and checked. And they confiscated some, but gave us back others.
Yep.
So we've got Thai things in the garden.
Okay. Interesting. So you genuinely have two abodes then, like two sets of wardrobes, two sets of gear.
Yeah,
Okay. That I hadn't considered. Okay.
we tried to put things. Well, we sold everything, gave everything away, and put a very small amount in storage.
Hmm.
But it's just inconvenient when you come back. Like, you got to have somewhere to stay.
Yeah. Unpack everything.
Yeah, so bite the bullet and have a second house. You miss out on the rent from renting it out, but
Yeah.
it's convenient.
Yeah. And your principal place of residence now that you're doing the 6-year rule on, before you came back, did you have a tenant in it or were you keeping it?
Yeah,
You did.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. I think our thinking was along the same line. So the Parramatta apartment that we were going to move into, and that was going to be our place of retirement. We were going to keep that vacant, and that'll be the Sydney place. And we'll just rent abroad until we find a place that we think can be home. Um, I do like your idea of doing a permanent long-term rent as opposed to buying, because then it locks up capital.
Mm, yep. And units in Thailand and other places, they can have problems.
Hmm.
Do you know Terminal 21 in Bangkok?
No, what happened?
Just behind it, there's a big black block of units, and it turned out that they were renting land from the rail corporation to use as their entrance,
Hmm.
which was fine. But then the rail corporation wanted that land back because they were going to build a station.
Yeah.
And then it turned out that they didn't have, there was some requirement about a 9 meter entrance, and they couldn't meet that. So it turned out the whole building was built illegally,
Wow.
and it's 30 floors, quite expensive. And they were talking about knocking it down, having to knock it down.
Crikey.
Yeah. Yep. Um, that was in the news, the Thai news, like a year ago. I don't know what's happened to it.
Mm. In terms of buying property, is it easy to buy property in your own name in Thailand, or do you have to do it via an entity as you've
Not
done?
not land.
Not land.
You
Okay.
can buy strata,
Okay.
but not land. And the
Gotcha.
way that people do it is they set up a company, and I think the requirement is the Thai person has to own 51%. You can own 49,
Yep.
but you might need several Thai people.
Okay.
And what they used to do is the Thais would give an irrevocable power of attorney to you,
Hmm.
so you could vote, have the voting control of the company.
Hmm.
And then even though it's in the company, it's your property really, but that's illegal, and they're they're cracking down on it.
Mm.
And there was a case of a French woman probably 6 months ago. She committed suicide, and she left her house to her maid, and it was like a $2 million house
Hmm.
on the mountains in Koh Samui. And that was in a company structure, so she didn't own the house to give. So it looks like the maid's going to miss out on getting that, and perhaps the shareholders of the company will get it.
Oh, wow. So even though she had control and power of attorney, it wasn't enduring. It didn't.
Well, I don't know the details, but it was illegal.
Mm.
So they're cracking down on these things.
Okay.
And there was another case in one of the islands down there where a German guy, he had a house on the beach, and a couple of Thais were sitting on the steps, and he went out and he kicked the woman in the back, said,
Mm.
"Get off my property," even though the steps were part of the beach. That went viral, and it turned out he had a business or had property on this 99 this company structure. So they're cracking down on these foreigners
Hmm.
taking manipulating the law and doing things they're not supposed to be doing.
Gotcha. So strata apartments are fine, but not land.
Uh, Only 49% of the building can be foreign owned.
Hmm.
So depends on how many tires are in the building.
That's a good rule, to be honest, because that way you don't run out all of the locals.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't mind that rule. I think in Vietnam it's even more stringent. It's like 10%.
Mm, yeah. I think it can be a good investment, but it's harder to sell property in Thailand than it is in Australia.
Hmm.
Some places they don't even have agents. You've got to sell it yourself,
Oh wow,
and there's so many new units coming up. It's hard to sell the old ones.
gotcha. Lots of supply.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, creates an
We
opportunity for buyers though.
we did look at these units in Jomtien, which is the next beach down from Pattaya.
Mm. Is that nice? I've heard a lot about Jomtien.
It is, yeah. Um, it's less busy,
Yep,
long straight beach, probably 2 or 3 kilometers.
yep.
And we looked at this apartment called the Copacabana.
Hmm.
Beautiful. It had apartments with a, a lap pool built into the balcony, like a 5 meter pool.
Of your apartment.
Yeah, yeah.
That's insane. Okay.
The whole apartment was like 60 square meters, but that
Yeah.
included the pool and 1 bedroom. And
What
they,
what did that go for?
it was maybe 400,000 Aussie,
Okay.
but beach sea views from your balcony.
Yep.
So places like that, they can be resold pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't find anything like it like that in Sydney for under like 3 mil.
Yeah, yeah,
An
yeah.
apartment with sea views and a lap pool on your balcony. That's probably more than 3 mil.
And you walk out the gate, you're on the beach,
Yeah.
and
One of the things that
everything's marble and beautiful.
that sounds lovely. One of the things that I always aspired to was fire, but the thing that I loved about Southeast Asia is you could fat fire. Have you heard of fat fire?
Yeah.
You could fat fire a lot easier on the same amount of money if you decide to live part or more of your time in Asia, as I'm sure you found. Like the quality of life that you've got in Thailand, is it more than what your quality of life would have been
Oh,
in
yeah,
Australia?
yeah.
In what ways? Where have you dialed up your lifestyle?
I probably lived the same, but my neighbor, she doesn't work, but she's got a maid,
Yes.
live-in maid, and she pays something like $400 a month.
Yep.
So the maid cooks and cleans, does the
Yep.
washing, and I don't know what she does actually.
She lives life.
Yeah, yeah.
He has
But
no chores.
she's Thai, not a foreigner.
She's Thai. Okay.
Yeah, and not
Hmm.
rich. They're they're pretty average Thais.
Wow. That's middle class.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Oh,
they do have a couple of properties fully paid off, but
okay. Upper middle class.
mm, husband still works.
Yep. The last time we had that in the West was the Brady Bunch, when you had the husband work, the wife doesn't, and you had a full-time maid.
Mm, that's right. Yeah, Alice.
Alice,
Yeah,
it's been a while, so you can
yeah,
still get that in Thailand. I think the other area where you've dialed up is Hilton buffets.
yeah. Don't do that in Sydney. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, probably eat better,
Yeah.
or I don't know if it's better, but more expensively in
That's my
Thailand.
vice. That'll be my vice.
Um, yeah, I'm not much of a beer drinker, but beers are cheap.
Yeah.
Probably 90 baht at a bar, so that would be $3 for
$2 for beer.
yeah, a little bottle.
Hmm.
can, sort of 370 mils.
Yep. I think it'll be $10, $12 here in Sydney.
And water, if you go to a 7-Eleven, you can get water for like 50 cents.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a lot cheaper.
But stocked in here, you come back at the airport and you charge like $5 for a bottle of water.
Airport tax. Airports are terrible. Everywhere. Airport in India, airport in Vietnam. It's like you haven't left Australia.
Well, Japan is still cheap. You can get a Coke in a vending machine for a dollar or so.
Japan's phenomenal. It's like they've been stuck in this time loop since the 1990s. The inflation's just stopped. I remember once upon a time, Japan was considered expensive, but now the rest of the world has caught up and exceeded them, and now
That's
they're
right.
cheap by comparison.
Yeah, yeah. Very, very cheap meals. It's actually cheaper than Thailand
No
for
way.
food.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a surprise to me. Um,
Like we went to get some noodles in Japan. It was less than $10,
yeah, sorry.
but in Thailand, the same noodles were at a restaurant, Japanese restaurant, were like $15.
Okay. That sounds like the middle tier is cheaper in Japan. The lower tier is cheaper in Thailand. At the pork neck noodles, you wouldn't be able to find that in Japan for $2.
Nah, nah.
Um,
Um, accommodation in Japan is probably very cheap,
mhm.
like $500 a month for a studio apartment.
Yep.
But they generally don't rent to foreigners. It's long-term
Long
leases.
leases. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, the Airbnbs when we stayed were reasonable. They were a little bit cheaper, but not like remarkably so. Um, the fascinating thing about the demographics in Japan is because they've got such a population decline, so many old people, lots of empty houses. Like you can buy property for like 40,000 US there, or a house that's been vacant like 5, 10 years and just abandoned.
There's a good YouTube channel with an Aussie woman living in Japan. She's bought a house.
Hmm.
I think her name's Chania.
Hmm.
Chani, yeah. So have a look at that one. She
Okay.
she speaks Japanese
Yep.
and is not married or anything. She just went there and decided to live in her 50s.
Very adventurous.
Mm,
I might find that and send it to a friend of mine. Um,
yeah.
uh, we're kind of wrapping up on time, but I really appreciate having a chat with you, mate. You're living the dream, so Andy was right, and I hope everything goes well for you when you head back to Thailand.
Well, let me know when you're in town
Most definitely,
and we'll catch up.
most definitely.
Pattaya is known as a party town.
Which was, I'm surprised that when you said you were in Pattaya because you kind of married. It's got the reputation of the
Not
party
kind
town
of, definitely married.
for single men.
Yeah, I guess all my relatives started Googling Pattaya
Yep.
and
Terry, what are you doing?
and they think you live in Soy 6,
Yeah.
Pattaya, which is a street with 100 girly bars.
Yes.
But it's very tame out where I live.
Yeah.
And even in the center, like my kids come to Thailand and I take them to pubs and that. It's fine.
Oh, okay. How old are your kids, mate?
27 and 22.
Okay, not kids.
Yeah, they're old enough to drink now.
Yeah. Well, that would
Yeah.
make it convenient for them. Like have a cheap holiday, just pay for your flights, accommodations taken care of, and the cost of the holiday in Thailand is really, really cheap.
Well, they don't pay anything, so
Mm.
very, very good for them.
Yep.
I have to pay everything.
Oh, you're still funding airfares?
Um, I think I did last time. I keep telling them no,
Yes.
but I end up doing it somehow.
Yes. Yes. Hard to say no.
They live in Japan, so um,
Wow.
It's only a 5-hour flight.
How did that happen?
They were born here, but they've got Japanese passports,
Yep.
and their mum's Japanese,
Okay.
so they chose to live there rather than Sydney. They
Gotcha.
prefer it over there,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and yeah, they'll never move to Thailand. I think
Mhm.
they're too stuck in their Japanese ways now.
It's, as you said, chalk and cheese. One structured,
Yeah,
organized, clean, polite, and Thailand is a lovely chaos.
interestingly, one of my neighbors is Japanese. He's a man,
Hmm.
and he's fully integrated into Thailand. Speaks Thai perfect.
Yep.
He's got kids. Speaks Thai to his kids,
Yep.
and you wouldn't pick him.
Yep.
Yeah,
To his Japanese mates, he's probably considered a rebel.
yeah.
You'd have to be.
There's a lot of Asian foreigners there, but they don't stand out like the
Yes.
Farang.
Yes.
In my complex, there's probably 3 Farang or white people,
Yep.
and there's a lot of probably 4 or 5 Chinese and Japanese, and a few Burmese as well.
Yep. I find that whenever I go to Thailand, people try and speak to me in Thai.
Mm,
When I go to Japan, they try to speak to me in Japanese.
yeah, yeah,
But you have an advantage because they just assume you can't speak the language.
yeah. Which is good sometimes because you can hear what they're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
I will definitely take you up on that offer. So next time I'm in Thailand, I'll drop by and I'll buy you a beer.
a $3 beer.
A $3 beer. Actually, we'll go to the Hilton and do a proper buffet.
Now we can have a few beers.
Thanks, mate.